Virginia Tech women's basketball is finding their stride at the right time.
There's been a changing of the guard on the sidelines of ACC basketball, and Diamond Sports are in full swing.
We have all that and more coming up on the 3304 Sports Tip-Off Show.
Hello and welcome from the Center for the Arts Studio in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm Riley Klaus, joined by Alex Kuchenmeister. And Alex, there's a lot of sports now starting to cross over, but as we begin the discussion today, why not start with the Virginia Tech women's basketball team, a 7-game win streak they had. They lost it, and how about a win at a 10 p.m. tip-off on the West Coast against Stanford? That was a huge win for the women's basketball team.
Yeah, interesting start time for them, but the women's team was able to really pick it up behind 24 points from Karis Baker.
And when we now look at the grand scheme of things, both the men's and women's teams are trying to make the tournament, but for women's basketball, that was a big quad one victory, and now they maybe have a little bit of a better case of trying to make the tournament.
Yeah, according to Charlie Cream's bracketology, it was a big game for them, and they were able to get the win against Stanford, the team that is right ahead of them, according to the latest edition in the last four-in category, a win streak that they're trying to start up after this big win against a needed opponent.
So bottom line, Alex, they're going to need to be really impressive down the stretch if they want to make the tournament.
They're going to need to pick it up. They have a big ranked game coming against North Carolina. I believe they're ranked 21, and then a big rivalry matchup at Virginia to take on the Hoos in a game that they already were victorious in earlier this season.
Yeah, now they have a couple of players who have really started to blossom. You mentioned Karis Baker. They had 5 double-digit scores in that last game, and they're really starting to find out who's important on this team.
They are, and we'll see how they do down the stretch with more on 2 players who are going to be huge down the stretch of the season. Here is Cole Jackson-Page.
In life, you have your duos. Either it be peanut butter and jelly, Tom and Jerry. Now, if we're talking Hokies, maybe Justin Mutz and Keve Luma, or Liz Kick-Litley and Georgia Moore. Now, it's Karis Baker and Carly Wenzel at the helm for Virginia Tech, and they will be crucial in the final month of the season. But let's go back to their early days. In the age of NIL and the transfer portal, Baker and Wenzel have been Hokies through and through, having been here since they were freshmen. Wenzel was on that Final Four team, though she never stepped on the court, and Baker came in the year after. In 2023-2024 season, both came off the bench for the Hokies, but it was in 2024 where they took their step. With Liz Kitley set for the pros and Georgia Moore transferring to Kentucky, the new coach Megan Duffy had to find their new players to lean on. Last year, they both started every game, and Wenzel led the team with 14 points per game, and Baker had just over 12 points and 6 rebounds per game. While Rose Michaud and Matilda Eck had also a part of the plan last year, it was clear to see Baker and Wenzel were the future of Virginia Tech women's basketball. As you sit a few weeks away from the ACC tournament, the two have shown why they were given the task to lead the team over the season. Karis Baker leads the team with 14.5 points per game with 6 rebounds, shooting the ball at a 43% clip from the field and 37 from 3. Carly Wenzel is averaging the same 14.5 points per game, shooting 35% from the field and from deep, which is impressive from both. But let's look at their last 10 games. 10 games which include their 7-game win streak. In that time, Karis Baker had averaged 16.5 points and 7 rebounds per game. She shot a 43% clip in those games and a 42% from the 3. In 4 of those games, she totaled 20-plus points. Carly Wenzel's averages have also gone up to 18 points and 4 assists per game. Big jumps from the two stars and a big reason why they went on a 7-game win streak in the big win against Stanford. What is more important is that they're getting to this level of production from them together. In the beginning of the year, it was either one or the other, having a good game, but this time it's both. With the duo of Baker and Wenzel at their best and along with a strong supporting cast, this team is hard to beat, and it showed. The Lady Hokies are on a mission this year, trying to get out the sour taste of missing the tournament last year, but they'll have to be locked in, and it starts with Karis Baker and Carly Wenzel.
Thank you, Cole. We talked about the world of women's basketball. Now let's transition to men's. Riley, what have we seen in this world over the last week?
Right, well, let's start with the big picture, right? Across the country. We're not even to March yet, and some of the madness is starting to occur. You look at Kansas getting an upset over a big-time team in Arizona, and then you look ahead to this weekend, and they are taking on Iowa State, another top 10 matchup, which is huge. But let's bring it back to Virginia Tech. And you want to talk about upsets? How about a win over Clemson, Alex, which really helps the Hokies' chances of making the tournament?
They were fantastic, specifically Jalen Bedford and Ben Hammond, 23 and 19 points, respectively. The Hokies made 11 threes in that game as well, and they're up to 9th place in the ACC with that win.
That was a big one, and it is going to be interesting for Clemson too, right? After they're probably a little upset with that loss, they're going to a big-time team in Duke, and the ACC as a whole this season is trying to make some waves and maybe get back to their former glory.
Yeah, we got Duke at the top, Virginia in second place of the conference. That's a team that Virginia Tech was able to beat earlier in the season in that triple overtime game. The Who's sitting in second place with that 10-2 conference record and a ranked standing.
A lot of great teams, and as said, the ACC is trying to restore itself to former glory, and there's a new wave of coaches trying to lead their programs to the throne. So for more on the changing of the guard on the sidelines, here's Richard Terry.
Virginia Tech takes on Florida State this Saturday. Coach Leonard Hamilton's squad is having a rough season, and it looks like another year without March for this veteran head coach. Wait, I'm getting waved down for production. I'll be right back. Okay, wow, so, all right. I hate to break the news to everyone, but it turns out that Leonard Hamilton retired last year after his 23rd season as the FSU head man. Can't believe that legend hung it up, but at least we still have Coach K, Roy Williams, Jim Larinaga, Jim Boeheim. In all seriousness, the ACC has been flipped upside down with retirements over the year. An old guard of coaches and talent has gone through a transitory stage, and last year it really showed, as only 4 teams from the ACC made the tournament. Coach Leonard Hamilton's retirement marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new one. There was plenty of skepticism after the generationally low year for ACC basketball. But if we look at bracketology now, things have quickly changed. Joe Lunardi of ESPN has 9 ACC teams in the tournament. So what caused this change? As quickly as the old guard had their farewell tour, a strong new generation was forming, and oh boy, have they formed. Some coaches are still trying to find their footing. Coach Luke Locks has his first game in Blacksburg, but unfortunately for Floridians, he has had more first losses than first wins. FSU fans really shouldn't worry. There's plenty of foreshadowing around the league that hints a year from now, the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center will be jam-packed with that good old war chant echoing off the walls. That foreshadowing comes from many other first and second year head coaches who have taken off this season. So who are these coaches? John Shire and Hubert Davis took over the Blue Bloods of the ACC in the early 2020s. How would they ever live up to the likes of Coach K or Roy Williams? How about 6 tournament appearances split between the two, and a Final Four appearance for each? It makes it well known the ACC still bleeds blue. Ryan Odom, UVA's head man, took a trip from Richmond to Charlottesville, and his squad looks a lot like his VCU tournament team from a year ago. He currently has the Cavaliers at 21-3. Pat Kelsey. Louisville prides itself as a strong basketball school, but prior to last year, the Cardinal faithful were losing faith. In comes Pat Kelsey with already 1 tournament appearance under his belt. It looks like it'll be back-to-back years in the tourney for the Louisville coach. Then the true surprises of the bunch. Will Wade's name has been well known in basketball from LSU to McNeese, but could he pave the path outside of Louisiana? The NC State Wolfpack have been on the prowl this year and certainly seem back to form. And then Jai Lucas. He's been a quiet hire of the group. Taking over for a 2-time Final Four head coach is not an easy task. Not many expected the former assistant coach to make much noise, but a hurricane is coming as an incredible transfer portal class has Miami hoping for a national championship appearance in 2 sports. Many new names in the ACC means a lot of uncertainty. Lots of fans haven't had time to familiarize themselves with these coaches, but on the court, the players have. ACC basketball is back. Watch out for these names come March.
Time of year, there is still some other sports that are starting up, including baseball, and I'm already starting to hear the crowd sing and take me out to the ball game.
It's going to be an exciting season, Riley, and they start off their season with 2 games against William & Mary that happened yesterday, now 2 again today. Who are you looking for to start this season off strong for the Hokies?
Right, this is a fascinating group, right, for Virginia Tech because they've started to build a core group of players, and I'd say the headliner, of course, is going to be the pitcher in Brett Renfro, who's been spectacular over his first few years in Blacksburg. And then on the offensive end, are there players that step up, like Hudson Luderman? Henry Cook as an experienced catcher is there as well. I think it's going to be fascinating early on to see what this team is made of, and so the baseball's trying to do well, but once again, that's not the only sport going on in Blacksburg.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype about this Virginia Tech softball team. They've gotten off to a hot start. With more on that, we go to Robbie Ackerley.
It has been freezing here in Blacksburg the past month, but down in South Carolina, the Lady Hokies of Virginia Tech softball were blistering this past weekend, bringing the heat all tournament long. Returning to Columbia for the first time since 2022, these Hokies were unfazed by the climate change and kicked off the Gamecock Invitational with an 8-4 upset over the number 14 Cox. South Carolina actually jumped out to a 4-1 lead through 5 innings, but it was a Kylie Aldridge bomb to center field that sparked a 7-0 run to close out the contest. Not the nicest way to greet your host, but hey, Southern hospitality can only go so far on game days. Now, the next 3 matchups saw Virginia Tech outscore opponents Binghamton and Winthrop 16-4, beating the former twice in 2 days, including an 11-3 run rule on Saturday. Now, if you thought that 4-0 start was enough for these Hokies, I assure you it was not. Because beating the Gamecocks the first time around was so nice, yeah, they had to do it twice. This time around, the Hokies found themselves down 4-0 through 2 innings. And in typical Tech softball fashion, the Hokies started swinging for the fences. In inning number 3, it's safe to say some attendees went home with a couple of souvenirs, as the Hokies would rattle off 5 runs, fueled by back-to-back homers from Zoe Yeager and Michelle Chatfield. From here, Tech never looked back and once again conquered the Cox, this time 8-5. Well, for my AP Math crew at home, that amounts to a 5-0 start and a clean sweep of the Gamecock Invitational. That means the Virginia Tech Hokies are now 5-0 to start the season with 2 top 14 wins. Now, it's not time just yet to hang the banners, as there is a ton of softball to be played, but it is certainly looking like this Virginia Tech softball crew is not messing around this year.
Thanks, Robbie. Well, Riley, there are a lot of sports that have really been kicking into gear lately for Virginia Tech.
Right, as we talked about on the show today, and Robbie just mentioned softball off to a really exciting start. We'll have to see how baseball does on the diamond, and of course, with March nearing, basketball is in the forefront as well.
There's a lot going on, inside, outside. Hopefully the weather permits for some great games here in Blacksburg. It's been great to talk about this, and this is going to be an exciting end of the season that we get to watch here unfold.
I would have to completely agree, Alex. Well, thank you for spending some time with us on this week's show. Make sure to follow us on social media at 3304 Sports, and enjoy your weekend watching all of these sports which are being shown. For our reporters, Cole Jackson-Page, Richard Terry, and Robbie Ackerley, my co-host, Alex Kuchenmeister, I'm Riley Klaus, saying so long for now.